What is up, guys? Welcome to it. This is WWE 2K15 Audio Universe Mode. We're on NXT Episode 8. This is Week 3, and we are a couple of days away from our NXT special and the very first pay-per-view in this series, Extreme Rules. Now, this episode is going to be pretty short because I'm saving the big matches for the special, so this episode will probably be just a bit short, just to cover any loose ends leading up to that special. And also I'll be sharing my thoughts on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. It was slightly better than last week's episode. I'll be touching on that after we cover NXT. It's Thursday today. I haven't watched this week's NXT or TNA or Lucha or Ring of Honor. Hoping to watch them tonight, and then maybe I can review them on the SmackDown episode. So look forward to that. And you look forward to tonight's NXT and that Raw review. We kick off NXT with our general manager trying to sort out the growing issue between our three big guys, Mark Henry, Samoa Joe, and Kevin Owens. If you remember last week, guys, Mark Henry was in action against one half of the Ascension. That was Connor. Right? He defeated him, no problem. Then out comes Samoa Joe, looking to accept Mark Henry's challenge because Mark Henry has gotten cocky. Well, can't really blame him. He took out Kevin Owens in a steel cage match the week before, and he wants to make a statement that he's the baddest guy on NXT. Nobody can take him down. This was until Samoa Joe stepped out and he's like, I can take you down anytime, anywhere, no problem. And he started making his way to the ring only to be attacked from behind by Kevin Owens. The guy was defeated by Mark Henry the week before. And this led to Kevin Owens and Mark Henry going at it in the ring. But not for long, as Samoa Joe, he got back up, got into the ring, and it became a three-way dance between these big guys. It took security to come down and separate them, but they were failing. These guys kept getting back to fighting each other again, but eventually security, they got control of the situation. But it's not enough, and General Manager came out tonight to try and settle things between the three of them by giving them exactly what they want and what the fans want, a triple threat match between these three guys at the NXT special. But just to make it a little bit sweeter, the winner of that triple threat match will become the number one contender to the NXT Championship, and will get to challenge the champion, the winner between current champion John Morrison and challenger Chris Jericho, between their match, which will be the main event at the special. The winner of this triple threat match will challenge the champion at the next special, which will be happening 2 months from this one. So what happens is we've got an NXT special this month. Next month there won't be a special. The other month will be when we'll have our NXT special. That's when the winner will challenge the champion for the NXT title. Now, I decided to do this for my specials because I think it'll give me some time to build up rivalries and storylines leading up to big matches for our NXT specials. So as opposed to having them every month like our normal pay-per-views, we will be having our specials every 2 weeks. But we will have our NXT champions, the tag team champions and the NXT champion. They can defend their titles at the main roster pay-per-views at the end of the month. That can be done, but our NXT specials will be every 2 months. So I hope you guys will understand. I hope for those who are hoping to that we have NXT specials every month. Please understand, it will be for the sake of having time to build up our rivalries, our storylines for the NXT titles. The big matches at the specials. So every 2 months NXT specials. So I hope you guys don't mind. That's how it's going to be. Now, when he had created this match for these three guys, out comes the NXT champion and the current tag team number one contenders, Tyler Breeze and the Brian Kendrick. Of course, John Morrison would have a lot to say about this decision that the GM has just made, saying, hey, these guys, how can they get a title shot? They didn't earn it. He's defeated Kevin Owens and Mark Henry before. Well, this happened before the start of our series in episode 0, where I talked about how our current champions got to be champions. Morrison, he won the NXT title a year in the previous year, around the time after Money in the Bank. The title was vacated, so he's been champ since then, about 9 months. So he feels that these guys haven't earned a title shot. He's defeated Kevin Owens and Mark Henry before, but with the help of Tyler Breeze and the Brian Kendrick, of course. So as much as he wants to say that he's defeated these guys before, it wasn't without their help. So that's his claim. The general manager, he brushes that aside, tells him that it's best that Morrison focuses not only on his title match at the special against Jericho, who beat him last week to secure his title shot, but he should focus on the main event tonight, because it will be a rematch to that 6-man tag team match they had on our first NXT episode, which the champion and Brian Kendrick and Tyler Breeze, they won with some dirty tricks thanks to the champion. This time, if they try anything, they will be disqualified immediately. So no tricks this time. The rematch to that 6-man tag team match will be our main event. Just as something for the NXT champion to be frustrated about, something he can think about for the rest of the show. So we move on to the first match of the evening, singles competition. WWE Women's Champion Bayley will be in one-on-one action against Carmella with her pals, the tag team champions Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, Big Cass. They'll be joining commentary alongside one half of the tag team contenders for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship, Charlotte and Sasha Banks. They're also at commentary, probably to watch Bayley's match, while the tag team champions, they're on Carmella's side, obviously, for this match. Now, this match was to prep up our champion for her big title defense match at the special. For the very first time, it will be defended on the NXT special, and it will be defended for the very first time inside a steel cage match. This is the same, I wouldn't say the same, but the same, not the same, but it's a closed steel cage match, just like the one Mark Henry and Kevin Owens competed in, meaning you can't climb out of the cage. You win the match either by pinfall, by submission, or you walk out the door. That's the way to win this match, and this is the match our champion Bayley will be competing in against a mystery opponent who will be debuting at the special. So far, all we know is she's no stranger to the women's title picture, championship gold, I should say. She's no stranger to that. She's a veteran in women's wrestling in the Divas division. Just to give Bayley some motivation and to take this match seriously, to focus on it, because she's taking on someone who's been around the championship before, someone who could actually take the title away from her in her first match in this series. So Bayley was in this match on NXT against Carmella. She was focused. She was just trying to shake off any ring rust she may have had, she may have been building over the past weeks, because we haven't seen her in action since our first Raw episode where she defended her newly won championship against Charlotte and Bayley, who are former Divas champion and NXT champion respectively. That was when we saw Bayley in action. So tonight, Carmella put her through the paces just to prepare for that title match at the special. Of course, Bayley would fight back, trying to hold her own, but Carmella was just giving her a glimpse into the future, that here's a future number one contender for your title. Show me what you've got. And of course, the tag team champions would touch on that while at commentary, saying that Bayley is an amazing, has potential to be one of the great champions within the women's division, but she should not think that Carmella can't make it to the top. She can prove herself to be a contender and a future champion. So if Bayley doesn't, if she happens to slip in her performance, Carmella might be there to take up the championship. This is if Bayley can come out of the NXT special still champion. As for the contenders to the women's tag team titles, they have respect for Carmella. They believe she's capable of being a future contender and a future champion. But right now, it's Bayley's time. She can put the paces on Carmella, show her why she is the champion, why she deserves to be at the top of the division. Charlotte has no hard feelings towards Bayley. She lost to Bayley fair and square at WrestleMania and on Monday Night Raw in that triple threat match. So she's hoping to see how far Bayley can go as the WWE Women's Champion. The same sentiments are shared by former champion Sasha Banks. She'd like to see how far Bayley can go, and perhaps sometime in the future she will be number one contender and go one-on-one against Bayley for that championship, which would be something we could hope to see in the real world. Bayley being NXT Women's Champion, taking on Sasha Banks, who will be challenger for the title. I think that would be a great match. I'm not sure if it will happen. Maybe these ladies will be called up to the main roster before we get to see that match, but I hope we will get to see a match like that before these ladies are called up to the main roster. And I wonder who Sasha Banks, her challenger, will be at the next NXT special, the one in Brooklyn next month. And I was also happy to see, it's just something I found out on Twitter. I haven't seen the match, well, I haven't seen NXT, but Charlotte and Sasha Banks, they teamed up against Dana Brooke and Emma. I was looking forward to seeing that happen, and I'm glad it did. I'm hoping the match is as good as it sounds. I'm hoping to watch that tonight. Back to the action. Bayley, she finds her opening in Carmella's offense, gets to hit the belly to Bayley. Almost confused. That was Bayley to belly, but it's belly to Bayley. She gets to hit her move, gets the cover over Carmella, and gets the win, prepping her up for that title match at the NXT special. Can she overcome her mystery opponent? Will she walk out still as the women's champion, or will this veteran prove her to be not ready to be champion and defeat Bayley in her first title defense against a fresh challenger? We'll find out at the special. And then we move backstage to where our growing team, G2, Justin Gabriel and Corey Graves, they were interviewed backstage. talking about the little rise they've had. They've got 2 victories so far over Los Matadores, and last week they took on Fandango and Adam Rose. What are they hoping for? What are their plans for the future? And Corey came in to let the fans know that they will be in action at the NXT special against a mystery tag team. They can't reveal, they don't know who will step up to challenge them, but they feel confident that whoever steps up to challenge them, they'll be ready for them. The chemistry between Graves and Gabriel has been working. They're getting better and better, and they feel that it's their time to shine, and we're better off to prove that than at a special. So look forward to that G2 in action there against a mystery tag team who stepped up to challenge them. Then we move on to our next match. Speaking of tag team action, we've got tag team action coming up. The first of, the second. Is it the first? No, second. The first. Because our main event is a 6-man tag team match. So this is our first taste of some tag team action in this episode. We've got the Hardy Boys teaming up against Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods of the New Day, with Big E joining commentary. Let's hope he can behave as his teammates take on this legendary team, the Hardy Boys. Now for the Hardys, this was their last chance to try and persuade the New Day to accept their challenge for a 6-man tag team match at the special. Remember last week we had Jeff Hardy taking on Big E one-on-one, and after that match they challenged New Day to a 6-man tag team match with the Hardy Boys mystery, their partner, making his debut at the special. New Day, rather than respond to the challenge, they simply walked off. They snubbed the Hardy Boys. But tonight the Hardy Boys, they came back and they're taking on Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, hoping maybe to get a win over them and ask them and persuade them to accept their challenge. Now with experience on their side, the Hardy Boys were looking to wrap this match up pretty quickly until Big E showed his colors, getting off commentary to get involved just when everybody thought he was going to behave. The ref didn't have a problem with him being on commentary. He kept his eye on Big E for some time, but he figured that he's gonna behave, and he took his eye off of Big E, and that's when he took advantage, catching Jeff Hardy off the top turnbuckle before he could go for the Swanton bomb on Xavier Woods. This distraction caused a DQ win for the Hardy Boys, of course, but for the New Day, that wasn't a problem. What they wanted was to attack the Hardy Boys, regardless of them getting a DQ. Big man Big E took down both the Hardys with the big ending before Kofi Kingston got the mic and accepted the Hardy Boys' challenge to that 6-man tag team match. So there you have it, guys. New Day versus the Hardy Boys, with their partner debuting at that NXT special. 6-man tag team action against these 2 big teams. We look forward to that match, and we move on to our main event, our second tag team match, which is, of course, 6-man tag team action. The champion, John Morrison, Tyler Breeze, and the Brian Kendrick against the number 1 contender to the NXT championship, Y2J Chris Jericho, teaming up again with the tag team champions Rhino and Baron Corbin in what would be a rematch to their 6-man tag team match which they had on our first NXT episode. Now one would have expected the NXT champion to look for a way, try and sneak out of this match and just get it over with, but after being told by the general manager that he can't pull off any tricks or he and his team would get disqualified immediately, You can imagine that Morrison this time he wasn't going to try any tricks. He was frustrated. He was angry because of, firstly, he's gonna be facing Y2J for the title at the special, and also if he does survive the special, he has to look forward to one of those three guys being the contender, the next challenger for his title to face him at our next special. Will it be Mark Henry? Will it be Kevin Owens? Will it be Samoa Joe? Right, so you can imagine Morrison, he's got to think about that, and now he's in action in the main event. He's just looking to hurt Y2J or anyone who gets in his way. But Jericho, he would not back down. He would make use of the champion's frustration, using that to his advantage to get into Morrison's head in this match, fighting back, getting the tag team champions some action against their number one contenders, their challengers, Tyler Breeze and the Brian Kendrick. So both teams were getting their shots on their opponents. Nobody was going to try anything underhanded. This was their last encounter before the special, and they wanted to make it count. But something snapped. The champion Morrison decided, hey, whatever. And he decides to grab the NXT championship, aiming to pull off something despite having been warned by the general manager that he would get disqualified. And the ref was quick to try and fight the championship away from Morrison. Morrison wouldn't have it, pushing aside the ref, only to be welcomed back into the action by a gore from one half of the tag team champions, Rhino, taking down Morrison, while Jericho hitting the code breaker on Tyler Breeze, who super kicked him last week, and the Wolf, Baron Corbin, nailing the Brian Kendrick with the end of days. Rhino gets the cover for the team, 1, 2, 3 on the champion, and they get their win just before the special, ladies and gentlemen. So there you have it, our main event for this week's NXT. I hope you liked it. I hope you are looking forward to the special. Again, guys, I was looking for suggestions for the name of our NXT special. It's Thursday today. I've only got one suggestion from my pal, Murphs YT13. He came up with a suggestion earlier, a couple of weeks back. So I'll be using that name for our special. So I hope you'll be looking forward to it. And maybe in the next special, you guys can bring in your suggestions for it, because that's the reason why I'm having these special. One of the reasons is for you guys to be able to be involved with your suggestions for the name of our NXT special. That's how we're going to be doing it from now on. So maybe you guys can be involved in our next special. But this marks the end of our NXT episode. The next one will be our last SmackDown, which will be, I think, episode 9. And that'll be the last SmackDown to wrap up week 3. And after that, we'll have our NXT special. And then we will have our pay-per-view, Extreme Rules. I'll see if will I split it in two. Maybe the first part will be, I think I'll do that. The first part will be the kickoff, sort of. Or maybe I'll just cover it all in the same episode. I'll see. I'll think about it. Of maybe either keeping it the same as one episode or splitting it in two. The first half will be the sort of like kickoff show where we break down the matches for the pay-per-view. We look at them, we talk about them, analyze them, kind of like what they do with the panel segment. That's what we'll be doing in the kickoff episode. And then, of course, part 2 will be the pay-per-view. We'll see if I have the time. Maybe that's what I'll do. We'll consider what's happening over the weekend. We'll see what happens. But that's what we have going forward. SmackDown, the NXT special, and Extreme Rules. So I hope you guys will be looking forward to that. So now we can move on to the Raw review. As I said in the beginning, it was better than last week's episode. there was more to like in this episode than last week's. The opening that set the mood and the pace for the show. Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar coming out, of course. I wanted to see if they were gonna touch on Lesnar's match at Beast in the East. Yeah, they did. I don't think they did it in detail. Maybe just briefly. Paul Heyman reminding everyone how dangerous Brock Lesnar is, reminding them about the streak, reminding them about Lesnar manhandling John Cena at SummerSlam last year. Those 16 German suplexes, the prelude to Suplex City that came at WrestleMania when he took on Roman Reigns. And of course, they did touch on Seth Rollins. And what else? Well, they touched on Seth Rollins and that Lesnar wouldn't be going anywhere in the evening. He'll be ready for Rollins. And this was interesting because with Lesnar around, what would Seth Rollins do? Knowing Seth Rollins, would he run away or would he call on the authority to help him out? Although, of course, Kane is on vacation, in quotes, which was kind of silly because rather than having him in Hawaii for real, like what they did with Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury, they were around Chicago with the Cadillac. They were moving around. We had video evidence of them being around. Why couldn't they do the same thing for Kane? It's not like they couldn't. So instead we had a photoshopped package of Kane's pictures in Hawaii. Silly stuff, actually. Again, like what I said in the previous episode, that they take the WWE fans for granted. I mean, they think that, honestly, people would be cool with this sort of stuff. They forget that among the kids and the young fans who follow WWE, they are veterans. Not veterans, I mean, but hardcore fans who've been following WWE for years. And, you're pulling off stuff like this. That's taking them for granted. They should stop doing that. Seriously. On their flagship show of all places. I mean, if it was on SmackDown, maybe people wouldn't really care about it because I don't think SmackDown is as popular as it used to be. Now it's probably an afterthought for most people. But if it's happening on Raw live, it's not good, man. They should stop. They should actually take the time, actually build something that makes sense, something that people can appreciate, So again, the writers responsible for this, they should get serious. That's all I'm going to say about that. So again, Lesnar, he wasn't going anywhere, calling out Seth Rollins, make a move. And that's what Seth Rollins did eventually after talking to Triple H about the Beast. How can he get one over the Beast? And of course, Triple H motivated him to take action, and that's what Seth Rollins did. He was armed with axe handle. Yeah, that was an axe handle. With J&J security. They were in the ring waiting for Lesnar. They provoked him, calling him out to get to the ring. And of course, Lesnar accepted. He came down and looked like he was going to attack them in the ring until he backed away from the ring and turned his attention to the Cadillac that was parked by the entrance, because J&J security, they came to the arena with the Cadillac, and now with Lesnar out, he had something to take his frustration out on. And with the help of Paul Heyman coming out with a chest full of supplies, there was a fire extinguisher, there were axes in there as well. Lesnar got hold of an axe and went to town on that Cadillac. Now, some people were like, he was just short of taking that car to Suplex City. Yeah, he could have suplexed that car for all we know, but instead he chose to break it down with the axe, smashing the doors, the windows. Um, he took out one of the doors and threw it, um, and it hit a fan apparently. But I'm sure that fan wasn't injured too badly, but still, that was pretty dangerous. I don't think he should have gone that far. Maybe rip out the door, just toss it aside, not throwing it all the way to the point where it hits a fan in the crowd. Not cool, Lesnar. But anyway, that was one of the highlights of the evening. I enjoyed that better than another segment with the authority that would have. But after what happened last week, nah, that wouldn't have been a good idea. So I'm glad someone figured, hey, let's make use of Lesnar in this episode, and they actually did a good job with this Cadillac. Of course, Seth Rollins being the weasel, he got away, but J&J, unfortunately, to try and save their Cadillac, they went for Lesnar. Joey Mercury, yeah, he got suplexed onto the roof of the car. Jamie Noble, I think he got the Kimura lock. I'm not sure if he got his arm broken. I'm pretty sure he did. But yeah, he got the Kimura lock lashed onto him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Lesnar broke his arm. So Jen security taken out. Kane on vacation. Seth Rollins hightailed it out of there, knowing that Lesnar would probably not wait for Battleground and instead take him out right there and then. So we'll find out what happens next Raw. Hopefully, they'll pick up from that segment next week, rather than take it down a notch to some ridiculous segment. I hope it will be better than this week's episode. That's what should be happening. We watched this week's episode of Raw. Next week it gets better. We had King Barrett versus R-Truth. It was an okay match. I'm just hoping it's the last time we see them compete against each other. I mean, come on. The King What's Up thing being done by R-Truth is cool and all, but it's not really doing any favors for King Barrett, who won King of the Ring. Just to remind people, he's King of the Ring, guys. And they're not treating him like, it's a big deal. It should be a big deal considering all the legends who've won the tournament in the past. And now you're treating King Barrett like, he's just a regular guy on the roster. That shouldn't be happening. So they should move King Barrett on from this little feud with R-Truth. Have R-Truth do something else as well. I don't know. I don't think the King What's Up stunt, I don't think it'll last very long. Although, of course, the fans, they like R-Truth, so he's made this thing work, but I think WWE should take him serious enough to move him to something better. Make use of him. That's what he deserves. R-Truth, King Barrett as well. Move on. As for the Divas match, it was Paige versus Brie Bella. I should think. Yeah, it was Brie Bella. Another decent match. Didn't have any problem with that. I'm just happy I didn't hear them call out their spots as usual. I'm hoping someone at WWE must have heard my rant or something, because it was getting ridiculous. I don't want to hear them call out their spots. It distracts me from the action in the ring. Right? And speaking of distraction, I'm going to touch on Miz being involved at ringside during the match between Ryback and the Big Show. I didn't really mind Miz being at ringside, but I felt a little distracted by him at the same time. I kind of knew that he was going to get involved some way, somehow. You see? So him, though it was funny and hilarious, I was worried that maybe the crowd they wouldn't be invested in Miz's his little antics, but they were, and I guess that kind of helped him. Um, but it was a little distracting. Uh, Kept my focus away from the match because now I was starting to pay attention to the Miz, and I was just waiting for him to get involved. And of course, he got involved, thinking that he would get away, only to be taken out by the champion via shell shocked, and then a choke slam from the Big Show. Then Ryback took out the Big Show with the Me Too clothesline. So that was the end of the Miz. I wonder how this match will go. To be honest, although I'm sure, Ryback will come out as champion, but at least for Big Show and the Miz to put up a fight for the champion. I'm hoping for that because I'm not sure a lot of people would be interested in this match. Although Ryback has some fans now, he's got a fan base, but I think the majority of people are not really bothered about this match. So maybe their minds will be changed if Big Show, Ryback, and Miz actually put on a good performance. I'm hoping for that because that's what I'm hoping for at the end of the day. Them to perform, considering what Big Show had to say in his podcast interview on Jericho's Talk is Jericho. I feel like, maybe now let's give Big Show a chance. Let's see what he can do because sooner or later we won't have him active on TV anymore. So I'm hoping they'll make use of this time while he can still be active. Make something of him. I'm sure maybe some fans now they've changed their mind about the Big Show. Maybe they see him in a more positive light than before that interview. That's what I'm hoping for. So that triple threat match for the Intercontinental title at Battleground. Hope it'll be a good match. Then we had Barrett versus... Who was Barrett taking on? Not Barrett, sorry. I mean Sheamus. It was Orton and Sheamus. That's another feud that I'm sure a lot of people are not really invested in. I think people would be more invested in that feud if maybe Sheamus puts his briefcase on the line. Orton addresses Sheamus about that briefcase and he challenges Sheamus for the briefcase. Like at Battleground, we could have Sheamus versus Orton. Of course, Orton gets the win over Sheamus, and then Orton brings up the briefcase, and he's like, I'm going to challenge you for the briefcase. And they have their match at SummerSlam with the briefcase on the line. I think that's another match people would be interested to see at SummerSlam. Sheamus with the chance of losing that briefcase before he even gets a chance to cash in. He might lose it to Randy Orton. So I think that would be a match people would be interested in at SummerSlam. And of course, I would have them end the feud at SummerSlam. They don't need to push it to a third encounter at the next pay-per-view. I think it should be Night of Champions after SummerSlam. They won't need to do it. Just end it there. Sheamus, he retains the briefcase. He moves on. Orton moves on as well. Again, I'm fantasy booking, but that's how I would handle the Sheamus versus Orton feud. I think that's what would make it interesting. Have Sheamus defend the briefcase against Randy Orton. That's something that could hold the feud together, rather than them just feuding, maybe just as a grudge, just to get back. Orton trying to get back at Sheamus for them fighting before. Now that he's back, so I think have the briefcase be involved. Someone in creative. There's an idea. Briefcase. Then of course we had our main event United States Open Challenge, John Cena back and looking for another opponent with the title on the line. Out came Kevin Owens without the NXT title. I was interested to see what would we expect from Mr. Owens now that he doesn't have the NXT title around him. And of course, he wasn't bothered. He didn't even bring it up. He was going straight for the US title, so he was coming in for the challenge. But before he could get into action, out comes Cesaro, who, of course, based on how things ended last week with Kevin Owens interrupting the title match between Cesaro and Cena last week, Cesaro, he wants to get another shot at the title, told Kevin Owens to take a walk, and that is exactly what Kevin Owens did. Without any protest, he walked away. Cesaro and Cena would then be allowed to have their rematch for the title. Great match last week, spectacular match this week. Honestly, this is how it should be for John Cena. Any opponent he gets, they should put on a show. Without us having to expect that Cena's going to win again. It shouldn't be the case now. He should be getting better and better with each opponent that comes for that US title, or even when he doesn't have the title anymore. He should continue to evolve, get better and better. The matches get better and better. It looks good for Cena. It looks good for his opponent, and I'm hoping they'll make use of Cesaro now. I have brought up the idea of them including Cesaro in that US title match at Battleground to turn it into a triple threat. Although Cesaro lost clean to Cena on Raw this week, but it shouldn't be the end of Cesaro. Kevin Owens might actually, they could have him bring Cesaro, or keep him in this the title picture, and lead to a point where Cesaro, he gets to be part of that title match at Battleground. And again, fantasy booking, but anyway, this is how I'd push Cesaro forward. Have him in that US title match at Battleground. Have him win the United States Championship. Okay? Leaving Cena and Orton to fight over who should get the rematch for the US title. Of course, Cena, he is the legitimate guy able to call for a rematch, but Owens, he could say that, hey, I performed better than you in that triple threat match at Battleground. I deserve to be in the spot for that rematch against Cesaro more than you. So this would mean that Owens has to perform really well in that triple threat match at Battleground. He has to do better than John Cena and Cesaro, despite not winning the match in the end. But for us to believe that, yeah, Owens, his claim for a rematch is legit, it's believable. So him telling Cena that, hey, you can step aside, I deserve to have this rematch, that would be his claim. And then they can have that match, the winner becoming contender for the US title. They can have that match at SummerSlam. You see? Which means we get our John Cena versus Kevin Owens final showdown. We get it at SummerSlam, but this time with a reason. One of them becomes number one contender, and that's where Kevin Owens can beat Cena, and Cena can, he can go off TV for some time, and we have Owens moving forward to start a program with Cesaro for the US title. Now, I wouldn't rush to have Owens versus Cesaro for the US title like at Night of Champions right after SummerSlam. No, I would keep that title match for Survivor Series. So maybe Night of Champions and Hell in a Cell. That should, yeah, because it's SummerSlam, Night of Champions, then Hell in a Cell, then Survivor Series. Yeah. So for Night of Champions and Hell in a Cell, maybe at Night of Champions it would be Cesaro versus Kevin Owens. Cesaro doesn't think Owens deserves the number one contendership, so maybe they just have a non-title match at Night of Champions, and maybe Cesaro wins that one, and Kevin Owens, he calls out, well, he's still number one contender, so he pushes again. Then they have maybe another match at Night of Champions, or maybe some other challenger tries to get in the way between Owens and Cesaro, and maybe Owens can fight that guy, defending his contendership against this aspiring number one contender for the title at Hell in a Cell. And then once that's out of the way, they can have Cesaro defending the title at last against Kevin Owens at Survivor Series. Owens, he gets the win over Cesaro there. They have their rematch at TLC, the last pay-per-view of the year, with Owens retaining. Maybe it should be maybe a tables match, or because I'm sure they'll save the TLC match for the WWE Championship, so maybe a tables match or maybe a ladder match, but it should be a weapon-based match, stipulation like that. So maybe I'd say tables match. I mean, imagine that pop-up powerbomb, Cesaro going through a table, brutal stuff. So yeah, rematch for the US title at TLC. Kevin Owens retains, and he starts the new year as US champion. Cesaro, at least he ends the year having been active in some good feuds with John Cena, Owens, then with Owens one-on-one. That's something for Cesaro at least, and hopefully WWE can push Cesaro from there, start a new year with him, and figure out what's next for Cesaro. Hopefully he can start the new year talking about the Royal Rumble, some place in the main event, something for Cesaro, but at least end the year on a somewhat high note for him, even though he's lost the US title. But at least it's better this way than him ending the year with nothing, being put back in bottom or mid card with nothing to do, because as far as I know, Tyson Kidd is out for a while, so they should do something with Cesaro. That was just my idea for booking Cesaro forward. If you guys have ideas for how you would book Cesaro forward, let me know in the comments section or on Twitter if you follow me there, because that's the worry that most of us have, fans of Cesaro, that now that he's lost to Cena clean, what happens next? Will they ditch him like what they've done with him, like when he won the first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal WrestleMania last year? Yeah, it was last year. He was on top for some time. He was a Paul Heyman guy. Next thing you know, he's gone. Paul Heyman has moved on to someone else. So I don't want that to be the case for Cesaro. None of us do. They should do something for him. And when they brought him into this US title situation between Cena and Owens, that was some hope. You've got people's attention, and they should make use of that. Don't throw Cesaro back into mid-card and not have him do anything. There are enough superstars that have been unfortunate enough to get that treatment. The likes of Zack Ryder and Jack Swagger. Yeah, that's an unfortunate guy. But yeah, and Jack Swagger could be someone else who could challenge Kevin Owens for the US title. There's another idea. Future match, Kevin Owens, Jack Swagger. Maybe that will make Jack Swagger relevant again, stepping up to challenge Kevin Owens for the US title. And I don't think it would be bad anyway. Jack Swagger, he doesn't suck in the ring. Given a chance to perform really well. For example, his match against Rusev last year. Yeah, that's an example. Now imagine Jack Swagger versus Kevin Owens with the title on the line. You can't say that Jack Swagger would fail to perform. I think he would step up. So yeah, that's just an idea. So fingers crossed Cesaro doesn't end up on mid-card or, disappear into obscurity again. Yeah, that was Raw. That was a fantastic main event. And of course, Lesnar, just short of sending that Cadillac to Suplex City. Best two segments of the night, of course, with Paul Heyman's promo at the beginning. Oh, and another thing, this is concerning Triple H. This was something brought up by a caller on the PW Torch, Pro Wrestling Torch livecast podcast. Someone called in and they brought up the idea of what if Triple H were to turn babyface, as opposed to, the idea of a heel authority figure. They talked about how it doesn't really work now. I think WWE has overdone it and it doesn't work now. It doesn't have as much flair as it did in the past. So this caller brought up that idea of what if Triple H turned babyface and maybe the authority, they remain heels, but they take Triple H out of the authority. He's a babyface now, and then he starts recruiting NXT guys on his side to take on the authority. I thought that was an interesting idea. What do you guys think? Triple H turning babyface, he gets thrown out of the authority, and then he gets a team of NXT guys on his side, and they fight the authority. I'd be up for it. I'd like to see how that goes. Maybe then people will start taking NXT more seriously, because now we'll have them feature on the main roster taking on the authority. Worth a shot. Why not? So yeah, that's where I'll end my review of Raw and this NXT episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks to all the people who've been playing the plays I've been getting for each episode here on SoundCloud. It's all thanks to you guys, much more than what I would have gotten on YouTube. Because I'm pretty sure, most people on YouTube, they're there for video. So audio, especially audio universe mode, trying to tap into that audience of people who like universe mode. It's a bit difficult, but I've got more support here on SoundCloud. There are more plays than I imagined. I thought I wouldn't get. I thought people wouldn't be interested, but to see that there are people who are taking the time to listen to these episodes, I'm happy for that. I'm glad, and I thank you guys for that. I'm also hoping that the people who are playing these episodes, they're wrestling fans, as opposed to people who are just curious to find out what's going on. I hate to disappoint those guys. This is for wrestling fans, and again, if you are not a wrestling fan, but you have friends, you have family, people who are wrestling fans, you can introduce them to this series. Let them hear it for themselves. I've included a download option, so for those of you who don't have constant internet, you're now able to download episodes and you can listen to them offline anytime, anywhere. Because I understand what it's like not having constant net. So I'm doing it for those guys. I'm not just doing it for everyone, assuming that you all have constant good net. Some of you might not have, but you can download episodes now, listen to them offline, anytime, anywhere. That's for you guys. So again, thank you. I'll see you on SmackDown. That should be episode 9 to wrap up this week and to prepare us for our NXT special and our first pay-per-view of this series, Extreme Rules. Thank you guys.